This is the end of the day after I had my eye surgery, so they did my left eye. You can see probably still where they marked it. They did some double check protocols where one technician came along and marked the eye they were supposed to do, and then the doctor came along and did that. And we didn't see it yesterday, of course, because the bandage was covering everything. So this morning I went in and they took the bandage off almost right away, and then they did an eye test, and they showed me how easily I could, if they did a simple correction, I could read the eye chart really well, and so that was encouraging. So they took the bandage off at about 9:15 in the morning, and then I started noticing somewhere around maybe 4:15 in the afternoon that things that I'd heard other people report, and that the colors are looking much more saturated, particularly reds and yellows. And I was in a Walgreens, and I was noticing walking along, the everything, all the packaging, and looking down the card aisle looked so brilliant. And looking at the hills across the valley, there were red tones in the hills that I'd never seen before. I always thought it looked just blah and brown. One of the things that I've had to deal with all day are not being able to read anything close to me. I haven't been able to look at my phone. I've had to rely heavily on Siri and voice dictation. Siri reading my texts works pretty well. It's been a little more difficult to get into emails and things that come in from work. Part of that I attributed to dilating my eyes this morning, but I think part of it's just my eyes having to work everything out, and also the lenses they put in were for distance, and they did tell me that I was going to need lenses for close up. So right when I got back to town, I went down to the pharmacy and got some reading glasses. I got two different kinds, ones that were a little more suited to looking at a computer screen, and then I got ones that are a little more suited to looking at my phone. But I understand though that's gonna change though. My eyes are gonna continue to change, and just as they did during the course of today, when I was noticing more and more that I was seeing colors look more saturated. The only thing that came up was that when they checked my eye pressure, it was too high. In fact, the technician was quite surprised, and it seems that it's way too high. When I saw the actual doctor, he did reassure me that it was actually normal and they would take care of it, and they gave me some eye drops to remedy that, and I'm supposed to take them twice a day. He sent to my local pharmacy a prescription called Betamol, and I do want to say on this video that it seems to be a rare medication. My local pharmacy couldn't come up with it, and they even called several other pharmacies, so I was at the moment really regretting that I had left the big city without getting what I needed. And I live in a city of 35,000 people, and it wasn't available anywhere. But in Seattle, of course, I could have gotten it. Called the office back, and they gave me another prescription called Combagon, not sure I'm saying it right, and that one they did have, but when they were going to charge me for it, it turns out that my insurance pays very little of it, and in fact they could only sell it, the doctor prescribed 5 milliliters, and they could only sell it in 10 milliliters, so it was going to cost me well over $300 for it. So then I asked, well, say, if you would have gotten me the Betamol, how much would that have been? And that was over $100. So called back the doctor's office, and they came up with a combination of two generic drugs. I wrote it down here. One was called Timolol, and the other Bremidine, if I'm saying them right, and those were $10 each. One of the things that I had heard from people that had been through this before is that you get all the light artifacts and everything, and they are definitely interesting. I'm seeing them too. When I look up, every time I look up way high above my head, I see a scatter of what looks like really high birds in the sky flying up off that direction over my head. And I understand that those things are all normal. They're not particularly bothersome, but I was glad to know ahead of time that it's normal. Going through the Mount Baker and Mercer Island tunnels today outside of Seattle, I noticed the strips of light that are above the lanes. I've noticed that it gave me an extra set of lights next to them, and that was something I had heard from other videos was normal and it goes away. And so I was happy to hear that, and I actually enjoyed the lights, knowing that it was it was interesting knowing that it wasn't something that was a problem and it'll go away. I have had a very dull pain. I said on the video yesterday that I thought it might be sinuses, but now I'm pretty sure that it's just a very dull pain in the eye. But a couple Tylenol take care of it. That was the thing that the instruction sheet said I was allowed to take, so I've been taking 2 Tylenol every 6 hours, and it completely takes care of it. I think right around hour 5 or something I start feeling it again, but it hasn't been a problem. The last thing I want to mention is that when I was first talking to them about the eye surgery, they made it sound like I'd be on my way and I'd be back to work right away. And I think that would be overly difficult. My surgery was on a Thursday. I didn't go to work on Friday, which is today, for my follow-up appointment, and I'm glad I have a couple of days. And I'm a teacher, and I just in case I made sub-plans for Monday and Tuesday, and in hindsight I'm glad I did that, because the whole dealing with how much my eyes are changing even just during this first day, and how difficult it is to get used to reading and doing things on the computer, and my distance versus, I think I would have a very difficult time being in the classroom. Oh, and another thing is that as far as going to work, is that my eyes are getting tired, especially the uncorrected eye. It's following along, it's doing what it's supposed to, my brain's dealing with it well, but I am noticing my eye getting tired. And after I take the eye drops, which you do have to take 4 times a day, I've noticed that I've wanted to just close my eyes and rest, and it's making my eyes tired during this time, which my eyes don't normally get tired during the day. So there is an adjustment period. So if you have this surgery, I think plan on not going to work right away, especially if you're in my situation where you have only one eye that's really useful for driving and reading.